Night fell slowly over the city of Akesu, wrapping the streets in thick shadows and tired silence. By 10:40 p.m., most shops had closed, and the laughter of the daytime had been replaced by distant generator hums and barking dogs. That was when Eken's taxi rolled out from the narrow bush road near Old Quarry. The car looked ordinary at first glance. Yellow paint faded, bumper cracked, left headlight dimmer than the right. But anyone who looked closely would notice something strange. The taxi was always clean. Too clean for a car that often came from roads no one else used. Eken sat behind the wheel, his posture calm, his face unreadable. His hands didn't shake. His breathing was steady. Only his eyes moved, checking mirrors, scanning the darkness, counting seconds. When he reached Unity Roundabout, the tension melted from his face like it had never existed. He straightened his shirt, rolled down the window, and smiled at a group of drivers standing by their cars. "Evening, my people," he greeted warmly. They waved back. To them, Eken was just another night driver trying to survive the economy. No one asked where he was coming from. No one ever did. At home later that night, Eken lay beside his wife, staring at the ceiling while she slept. The fan creaked softly above them. At exactly 1:47 a.m., his phone vibrated. Credit alert. He didn't smile. He didn't rush. He only checked the amount, then turned the phone face down. By morning, the city woke up to panic. In a small apartment near Ocala, a man named Sadiq paced his living room. His phone pressed tightly to his ear. "The number you are calling is unavailable." His wife had left the previous night to visit her sister. She had sent one message at 10:12 p.m. "I've entered a taxi. I'll be there soon." She never arrived. Their son sat on the floor, pushing a toy car back and forth. "Daddy, when is Mummy coming back?" Sadiq had no answer. 2 days later, another woman went missing. Then another. Different neighborhoods. Different backgrounds. Same time window. Same last message. "I found a taxi." The police said it was coincidence. The city disagreed. Whispers spread through Akesu. People warned each other not to move late. Drivers were watched more closely. Except Eken. He smiled. He joked. He helped old women with their bags. And every night, at almost the same time, his taxi took a road that never appeared on any map. That Thursday, 3 university students stood by the roadside, laughing nervously as darkness thickened around them. When Eken's taxi stopped, they felt relieved. Too relieved. As they climbed in, none of them noticed the faint, sweet smell already lingering in the air. And as the car pulled away, the streetlight flickered, then went dark. By the end of the first week, fear had settled into Akesu like harmattan dust. It wasn't loud panic. It was quieter than that. Women stopped staying out late. Phones rang unanswered at night. Mothers waited at windows longer than they should. And one sentence kept repeating itself. She said she entered a taxi. At the Central Police Division, Inspector Kunnel Adabo flipped through files with a growing frown. 5 missing women. Different ages. Different neighborhoods. No forced entries. No witnesses. No bodies. Only timing. Between 9:45 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. Kunnel rubbed his eyes. "That's not coincidence," he muttered. But coincidence was exactly what his superiors preferred. "People disappear every day," his boss said. "Don't waste resources chasing shadows." Kunnel didn't argue. He just kept copies of the files. Eken noticed the tension too. Passengers spoke in hushed voices now. Some clutched their bags tightly. Others asked unnecessary questions. "Brother, you're going straight to Ocala, ABI? You won't pass Bush Road, right?" Eken always laughed. "Madam, I want peace of mind like you," he'd reply. "I don't joke with safety." And they believed him. Because belief is easier than fear. That night, Eken picked up a woman named Halima near the textile market. She was exhausted, her slippers dusty, her eyes heavy. As she entered the taxi, she hesitated. Something about the smell. Not perfume. Not air freshener. "Driver, what is that smell?" she asked. Eken met her eyes in the rearview mirror and smiled gently. "Just herbs," he said. "My wife hates bad air." Halima nodded, embarrassed for asking. 5 minutes later, her head slumped against the window. At 1:52 a.m., Eken's phone vibrated again. This time the amount was higher. He exhaled slowly, but something felt wrong. Not fear. Pressure. Like someone was watching him from somewhere far beyond the road. The next morning, Inspector Kunnel visited a taxi park unannounced. He spoke to drivers, studied tires, checked routes. Most were cooperative. One wasn't nervous at all. "Ken. Clean cab. Come answers. Perfect timing logs." Too perfect. Kunnel noticed something small. Mud under the wheel arch. Fresh. "Where did you drive last night?" Kunnel asked casually. Eken smiled. "Everywhere, Oga. This city is hard." Kunnel nodded. But his eyes lingered. That evening, a teenage girl named Zainab sent a voice note to her best friend. "I'm in a taxi now. The driver is very kind." The note cut off halfway. Her phone never turned on again. By now, rumors had teeth. People whispered about a taxi that only appeared when you were tired. A taxi that smelled sweet. A taxi that never argued about price. Some even said the driver never drove the same road twice. Inspector Kunnel finally broke protocol. He circled one name on his list. Eken Ajai, night shift driver. That night, Kunnel decided to follow him. From a distance. Without sirens. Without backup. And without knowing that once you follow that taxi, the road doesn't always bring you back. Inspector Kunnel kept his headlights low. He followed Eken's taxi from a distance, careful not to be noticed. The city lights thinned as they moved farther from the busy districts, replaced by long stretches of silence and broken street lamps. First, everything looked normal. Eken stopped for passengers, dropped them off safely, collected fares. Kunnel felt foolish for a moment. Maybe I'm chasing fear, he thought. Then the clock on his dashboard ticked past 9:58 p.m. Eken didn't stop again. Instead, he slowed near an old billboard that hadn't carried an advert in years. The road ahead looked empty, just bush, darkness, and dust. Kunnel frowned. There was no turn here. He had driven this route for 10 years. Yet Eken's taxi drifted left and disappeared. Not turned. Disappeared. Kunnel slammed his brakes. His heart pounded as he stared at the empty road. Then he saw it. A narrow path, barely visible, opening between the bushes like a wound in the earth. No signpost. No markings. Just tire tracks pressed deep into red soil. Kunnel swallowed hard. He drove forward. The air changed instantly. His radio hissed with static. His phone lost signal. The trees grew thicker, leaning inward as if listening. Kunnel followed the faint glow of Eken's taillights deeper into the bush. The road twisted unnaturally. Sharp bends, sudden dips. Yet Eken drove as if he had memorized every curve. Kunnel noticed something else. There were no houses, no animals, no night insects, just the sound of engines. And breathing. Not human breathing. The road suddenly opened into a clearing. Kunnel slowed, his blood turning cold. Ahead stood a structure half hidden by trees. Not abandoned but not alive either. Dim lanterns burned near the entrance. Shadows moved around it. Eken's taxi rolled to a stop. Kunnel parked far back, killed his engine and watched. 3 figures emerged from the shadows. They didn't speak. They opened Eken's back door. Kunnel's stomach tightened. He couldn't see the passengers clearly, but he saw limp movement, arms dangling, heads rolling loosely, unconscious, or worse. Kunnel's hand shook as he raised his phone, trying to record. The screen glitched. Then a voice whispered behind him. "Officer, you shouldn't be here." Kunnel spun around, gun raised. No one was there. But his car door was open. Cold air rushed in. The whisper returned, closer this time. "This road only works one way." Kunnel backed away, panic flooding him. He jumped into his car, slammed the door and turned the key. Nothing. The engine refused to start. From the clearing, Eken turned his head. Their eyes met across the darkness. For the first time, Eken didn't smile. He raised one finger and slowly dragged it across his throat. The lanterns went out. The clearing vanished. And suddenly, Kunnel's engine roared to life. He didn't wait. He reversed blindly, tires screeching, heart hammering in his chest. The bush spat him back onto the main road like it wanted nothing to do with him. Street lights flickered on. Traffic noise returned. Kunnel pulled over and vomited. When he checked the time, it was 10:01 p.m. Only 3 minutes had passed. But his hands were shaking like he'd aged 10 years. That night, Kunnel wrote one line in his private notebook. "The taxi doesn't kidnap people. Delivers them." And somewhere deep in the bush, Eken checked his mirror and smiled again. Eken had tried to quit once. It was 5 years earlier, long before Akesu learned to whisper his name in fear. Back then, he was just another struggling driver with rent overdue and a child on the way. His taxi was newer then. His smile less practiced. The night it began, rain had fallen so hard the gutters overflowed. Eken had taken a shortcut to avoid traffic, through an old quarry road most drivers avoided after dark. That was when the road changed. The same way it always did. Bush pulling apart. Silence thickening. A path appearing where none should exist. Eken had panicked, tried to reverse. But the engine died. And the collectors stepped out of the darkness. They didn't look monstrous. That was the worst part. They looked like people. Tall, thin, wrapped in old-fashioned clothing, faces calm and patient. "We are owed," one of them said. Eken begged, cried, promised anything. They listened. Then they offered him a choice. "Drive," they said, "or be delivered." Now, years later, Eken sat in his taxi outside his house, engine idling, staring at the cracked wall across the street. His wife, Mareo, thought he worked too much. She didn't know why he never drove during the day. She didn't know why he refused hospital visits. She didn't know why money entered their account without explanation. That night, Mareo confronted him. "You disappear every night," she said quietly. "And you come back smelling like earth." Eken said nothing. "Our son asked why you don't attend school meetings," she continued. "He thinks you don't care." That cut deeper than any threat. Eken stood, walked into the bathroom, and stared at his reflection. For a moment, just a moment, the man in the mirror blinked slower than he did. The whisper returned. "You are behind schedule." Inspector Kunnel didn't sleep. He couldn't. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the clearing. The lanterns. The way the passengers' bodies moved like empty bags. He dug into records older than the city itself. Missing persons from decades ago. Unexplained disappearances near Quarryland. Stories dismissed as folklore. One phrase appeared again and again in different languages. "The road that feeds." Kunnel's hands trembled as he read. The road wasn't random. Demanded balance. For every life it took, one was spared. For every family destroyed, another prospered. Drivers weren't killers. They were keys. That night, Eken picked up a man who didn't get sleepy. The man sat upright. Alert. Too alert. "You drive this route often," the man said. Eken's grip tightened. The man leaned forward. I followed you once. Eken felt the air grow heavy. You shouldn't have, he replied. The man smiled. I know what you deliver. Silence stretched between them. Then the man whispered something that froze Eken's blood. I know how to close the road. The taxi swerved slightly. Eken slowed to a stop. For the first time in years. The road waited. The man in the back seat called himself Ibrahim. He spoke calmly, like someone discussing the weather, not curses older than the city itself. I've been looking for you a long time, Ibrahim said, watching Eken through the rearview mirror. Drivers don't last this long unless the road has claimed them. Eken didn't reply. The taxi idled at the roadside, engine humming softly, headlights cutting weak tunnels through the darkness. You want to stop, Ibrahim continued. I can hear it in your breathing. Every driver wants to stop eventually. Eken laughed bitterly. Then you know it's not possible. Ibrahim shook his head. Not impossible. Just expensive. That word made Eken flinch. Nothing is free with the road, Ibrahim said. It feeds on balance. It opens because something was taken unjustly long ago. Eken felt his chest tighten. And how do you know all this? My mother was delivered, Ibrahim replied. 20 years ago. She never came back. Silence filled the taxi. She was pregnant, he added softly. With me. Eken's hands trembled on the wheel. You're lying, he said. Ibrahim smiled sadly. No. I was cut from her before the road finished feeding. That's why I hear it. That's why it doesn't open for me. Eken swallowed hard. There is a way, Ibrahim said. One night. One choice. The road will close forever. The whisper came immediately. Do not listen. Eken's ears rang. What choice? He asked anyway. Ibrahim leaned forward. His reflection overlapped Eken's in the mirror. You must deliver yourself, he said. The road stirred. The taxi lights flickered. Eken felt cold spread through his bones. I have a family, he whispered. So did everyone you delivered, Ibrahim replied gently. Inspector Kunnel watched from a distance as Eken's taxi stopped for nearly 10 minutes on an empty road. This time, Kunnel didn't hesitate. He stepped out of his car, gun ready. When he reached the taxi, the back door was open. Only a small object lay on the seat. Child's bracelet. Kunnel's blood ran cold. That night, Eken didn't drive into the bush. For the first time in years, the road did not open. Instead, the whisper followed him home. Debt is unpaid. Maria woke to find her husband sitting upright in bed, eyes wide open, breathing shallow. Eken, she whispered. He turned to her slowly. I'm sorry, he said. And she knew, without understanding why, that something terrible had chosen their house. At 1:47 a.m., Eken's phone buzzed. No credit alert, just a message. Tomorrow night. Bring what you love most. The whisper laughed. And far beneath the city, the road began to starve. When the road did not feed, it became angry. Akesu felt it before anyone understood it. Power outages spread through entire districts without explanation. Dogs howled through the night and refused to enter certain streets. Taxi engines stalled for no mechanical reason, especially after sunset. Inspector Kunnel stood over his desk, surrounded by reports no one wanted to sign. 3 accidents in one night. No brake marks. No survivors. All near Quarryland. Kunnel slammed his fist against the table. It's escalating. But his superiors only shook their heads. Coincidence, they repeated. You're chasing shadows. Kunnel whispered back. The shadows are chasing us. At home, Eken packed a small bag with shaking hands. His son, Tund, watched him quietly from the doorway. Daddy, are you going to work? Eken knelt and hugged him too tightly. "I'll be back," he said, though the words tasted like lies. Moreo stood behind them, pale. "I don't care about the money anymore," she said. "Let it go. Whatever it is." Eken closed his eyes. "If I let go," he whispered, "it won't let you go." That night, Eken drove with no passengers. The road opened on its own. Bush peeled away violently, branches snapping like bones. The taxi shook as it entered the hidden path, lanterns igniting one by one ahead. The collectors waited. But something was different. There were more of them now. And their patience was gone. "You are late," one said. Eken stepped out of the taxi. "I will finish this," he said. The whisper hissed. "Debt must be paid in blood." Eken clenched his fists. "Then take me." The collectors tilted their heads. "Not enough," they replied. The lanterns flared bright. Images flooded Eken's mind. Moreo screaming. Tund crying in the dark. The city collapsing street by street. Balance was shifting. Inspector Kunnel followed the chaos. He didn't chase the taxi this time. He chased the road itself. Using old maps and land surveys, Kunnel found the original quarry records. Something had been buried there long before the city existed. Shrine. Not to summon, but to contain. And it was broken. Kunnel understood too late. The road wasn't evil. It was a seal. Eken returned home at dawn. His clothes soaked in red dust. Moreo stared at him. "What did you agree to?" she asked. Eken didn't answer. That afternoon, Tund collapsed at school. No illness. No warning. By nightfall, he lay unconscious in the hospital. The machines beeped softly. The whisper purred. "What you love most." Eken sank to his knees beside the bed. Tears fell freely now. "I'll do it," he sobbed. "Just leave him." The whisper smiled. Tomorrow night. Outside the hospital, Inspector Kunnel watched Eken through the window. And for the first time, Kunnel knew exactly how this story ended. Unless he broke every rule he'd ever followed. The hospital lights flickered as Eken walked out into the night. Behind him, his son lay suspended between breath and silence. Doctors had no answers. Machines kept rhythm, but something deeper had already loosened its grip. Eken knew the truth. The road was calling in full voice now. His taxi waited outside, engine running on its own, headlights glowing too brightly, like eyes that hadn't blinked in years. Inspector Kunnel stepped out of the shadows. "You don't have to do this," Kunnel said. Eken didn't look surprised. "It's already decided." Kunnel held up a folder. Old photographs spilled out, black and white images of a stone shrine deep beneath the quarry. "They built the road to trap something," Kunnel said. "Not to feed it. Drivers were never meant to deliver people. You were meant to guard the seal." Eken laughed softly. "Then why does it demand blood?" "Because it's broken," Kunnel replied. "And because it learned greed from us." The taxi horn blared once. Eken flinched. "The road doesn't want balance anymore," Kunnel continued. "It wants permanence." Eken finally met his eyes. "And what do you suggest?" Kunnel took a breath. "The road can only be sealed by someone who entered willingly, and someone who was taken unjustly." Eken's mind flashed to Ibrahim. "He said he survived," Kunnel added. "That makes him a key." Eken whispered. "And me. You're the lock." The road opened violently that night. Not smoothly like before. Tore itself open. Bush screamed as it split apart. Lanterns ignited in chaos. The air burned cold. Eken drove in. This time Kunnel followed. They reached the clearing, but it had changed. The structure was cracking, stone bleeding dust. The collectors stood restless, shifting, their calm masks slipping. Ibrahim waited at the center. "You came," he said. Eken stepped out of the taxi. "I'll finish it," Eken said. "But not the way it wants." The collectors hissed. 2 must enter. 1 must remain. Kunnel shouted, "Now!" Eken grabbed Ibrahim's arm and shoved him toward the center of the shrine. The ground shook. The road screamed. "You were never meant to drive forever," Ibrahim said, tears in his eyes. "You were meant to end it." Eken nodded. "I know." The collectors lunged. Kunnel fired. Not at them, but at the cracked stone beneath the shrine. The seal shattered completely. The road panicked. For the first time it was afraid. Eken felt it then, the truth. The road wasn't alive. It was borrowed time, stolen from something that should have ended long ago. And it wanted to keep stealing. Eken stepped backward into the center. Kunnel shouted his name. Eken smiled one last time. "Take care of the city," he said. "Don't let it build another road." The lanterns went out. The bush collapsed inward. And the taxi disappeared. Morning came quietly to Akesu. Too quietly. There were no sirens. No crowds. No breaking news. Just a strange stillness that settled over the city like a held breath finally released. Inspector Kunnel stood alone at the edge of the quarry. Where the hidden road once opened, there was nothing now. Only solid earth and crushed stone. No tire tracks. No lantern marks. No signs that anything had ever existed there at all. Except one thing. Eken's taxi. It sat at the edge of the clearing, perfectly still, engine cold, doors unlocked. Kunnel approached slowly. Inside the taxi the air was normal. No sweet smell. No whisper. Just dust and silence. On the dashboard lay a single object. Child's bracelet. Kunnel closed his eyes. Across the city, people woke to unexpected messages. Missed calls returned. Phones rang again. Power stayed on. At the hospital, Mareo jolted awake in her chair as a nurse ran toward her. "Your son, he's responding." Tun's fingers moved. His breathing deepened. Color returned to his cheeks like sunrise after a long night. Mareo sobbed. Somewhere deep inside the earth, something loosened its grip. Weeks passed. No one disappeared. Taxi drivers noticed something strange. After midnight, the roads felt shorter, less heavy, as if the city itself was no longer holding its breath. Rumors faded. The story became a warning parents told their children. Don't take unknown taxis at night. They never mentioned the road. Inspector Kunnel filed his final report. Cause of disappearances. Unresolved. Status, closed. He kept the truth to himself. Sometimes late at night, he'd drive past the quarry and park for a while, listening. There was no whisper now. Only wind. Mareo sold the taxi. She couldn't bear to sit in it. A mechanic bought it cheaply, complaining it never started properly after midnight. He never drove it at night. Some instincts run deeper than knowledge. On the first anniversary of Eken's disappearance, Kunnel received a message from an unknown number. No sender name. Just text. Balance restored. Debt cleared. Do not build again. Kunnel deleted the message and never spoke of it. Years later, a new highway was planned near the old quarry. During construction, the machines stopped working without reason. Engineers reported ground that refused to be broken. The project was quietly abandoned. Some roads are not meant to exist twice. On certain nights, when the city is very still, a few people swear they see headlights in the distance. Far away, not moving, not approaching. Just watching. But no one ever gets close enough to confirm it. Because the road is closed. And whatever guarded it, paid the price willingly. If this story chilled you, don't forget to like and subscribe. Some roads should never be taken. Subscribe for more forbidden stories. The night hides many secrets. Stay with us, subscribe.